My 28F half-sister, 22F, wants me to pay for her wedding after my dad cheated on my mom with her mother. Family thinks I'm being cruel. I honestly don't know where to start with this mess, but I need outside perspective because my entire family is acting like I'm the worst person alive. Background: when I was 17, I found out my dad had been having an affair for 3 years with his coworker, Sarah. My parents' marriage imploded spectacularly. Sarah was pregnant with my half-sister, Emma. The divorce was brutal. Dad fought my mom on everything, drained their joint accounts, and moved in with Sarah immediately. My mom had a complete breakdown and I basically became her caretaker while trying to finish high school. I went no contact with my dad at 18. He made zero effort to maintain a relationship with me, was more concerned with his new family. I've built a good life for myself, graduated college debt-free through scholarships and working, have a stable job in marketing, bought my own house last year. My boyfriend Jake, 30M, is incredibly supportive and helps me maintain boundaries with my family. Here's where it gets messy. 2 months ago, Emma reached out on Facebook. We've had maybe 5 conversations in 11 years. She seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me, talking about her college experience, sharing photos. I was cautiously optimistic, maybe we could have some kind of relationship despite everything. Last week, she calls me crying. She's getting married in June to her boyfriend of 2 years. Here's the kicker: she wants me to pay for the wedding. Not contribute. Pay for it. The whole thing. Apparently, Dad and Sarah are going through a rough patch financially. Dad got fired 6 months ago for attendance issues, shocker, and can't afford the $15,000 wedding she's planned. Her exact words: "You're my big sister and you're doing so well financially. Family helps family, right? I know we haven't been close, but this is my chance to start fresh with everyone." I told her gently that I couldn't afford to pay for her wedding, but I'd be happy to contribute $500 as a wedding gift. She lost it. Started screaming about how I'm selfish, how I owe her because I got all the attention growing up. I was literally 6 years old when she was born, and how this is my chance to make things right. Then my phone started blowing up. Sarah texting me about how disappointed she is in me. My dad calling drunk at 11 p.m. demanding I step up and be a real sister. My grandparents, his side, lecturing me about Christian forgiveness and family obligations. The worst part? My own mother is pressuring me to do it. Says it would show I'm the bigger person and help me heal from the trauma. MOM. The woman who had panic attacks for 2 years because of what this man did to our family is telling me to bankroll his affair child's wedding. My cousin Lisa, who's always been like a sister to me, and Jake both think I'm absolutely right to say no. But I'm being bombarded with messages about how I'm punishing an innocent girl for her parents' mistakes and destroying any chance at a real family relationship. I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I really being unreasonable here? This girl is practically a stranger to me, and now I'm supposed to drop 15 grand on her wedding because we share DNA? Update 1. Holy crap, I did not expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who commented. Reading your responses has been incredibly validating. To answer some common questions. Yes, I'm sure it's $15,000. Emma sent me a breakdown of costs, without me asking, that included a $3,000 dress, $4,000 venue, $2,000 photographer, etc. Very detailed stuff. No, my dad has never paid child support for Emma consistently. My mom had to take him to court multiple times just to get the support I was legally owed. And no, this isn't about the money being tight for me. I could technically afford it, but that's my house emergency fund that I've spent 3 years building. So here's what happened over the weekend. I decided to call Emma directly and try to have a calm conversation. Maybe explain my boundaries better and see if we could salvage some kind of relationship. She answered the phone already crying. Apparently, she and her fiancé Mike broke up on Friday. Not because of the wedding drama, turns out he's been cheating on her for months. I actually felt terrible for her. Despite everything, she's still just a 22-year-old girl whose world just fell apart. I spent 2 hours on the phone with her, listening to her cry, giving advice about heartbreak. For the first time, she felt like my actual little sister. She apologized for how she approached the wedding thing, said she was just panicked and desperate. I told her I'd love to take her out for dinner and help her through this breakup as family should. Here's where I probably messed up. I offered to help her with smaller financial stuff while she got back on her feet. Pay for her therapy sessions, help with groceries, that sort of thing. I genuinely wanted to help her heal from this betrayal. By Sunday, Mike was back. They're engaged again. And Emma is back to calling me about the wedding, but now it's urgent because they want to move it up to April to start fresh. The $15,000 has now become $18,000 because of the rushed timeline. When I reminded her that she'd apologized and we'd agreed to take things slow, she said that was before I knew you were willing to help financially. She actually said that supporting her emotionally was nice and all, but what she really needed was for me to prove I care by paying for the wedding. I told her no, firmly this time. The response was immediate and brutal. Sarah showed up at my workplace on Monday. Started crying in the lobby about how I was abandoning family and how my dad is devastated by my coldness. My coworkers were staring. My boss had to ask her to leave. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Everyone has an opinion. My aunt, dad's sister, told me I'm being, just like my mother, vindictive and bitter. My grandmother sent me a 5-page handwritten letter about forgiveness and quoted scripture at me for paragraphs. But here's the thing that's really messing with my head: my mom is now fully on their side. She called me yesterday and said she's ashamed of how I'm handling this. That I'm perpetuating the cycle of hurt and that Jesus would want me to sacrifice for my sister. This is the same woman who used to have panic attacks when the mailman came because she was afraid it might be legal documents from my dad. The same woman who worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat because he wouldn't pay support consistently. Now she's quoting Jesus at me and talking about sacrifice? Jake is furious. He thinks my mom is having some kind of breakdown and projecting her guilt onto me. Lisa agrees and thinks the whole family has collectively lost their minds. I'm starting to feel like I'm the crazy one. Is this really just about a wedding? Because it's starting to feel like some kind of test where everyone gets to decide if I'm a good person or not based on whether I'll hand over my savings to someone who barely knows my middle name. Update 2. I need to get this all down because I'm honestly questioning my own sanity at this point. So I decided to call my mom and try to understand why she's suddenly Team Emma. The conversation was illuminating and horrible. Turns out, my dad has been calling my mom regularly for months. Not about me, about money. He's been asking her for loans, help with bills, even asked if she could co-sign for a car loan. My mom has been saying no, but apparently it's been wearing her down. Here's the kicker: Sarah has been calling too. Crying to my mom about how hard it's been to be the other woman, how guilty she feels about breaking up our family, how she just wants everyone to get along now. My mom, who I thought had a spine, has been falling for this manipulation completely. The worst part? My mom admitted that she told them about my savings. She mentioned that I'd been responsible with money and had built up an emergency fund. She gave them the idea to ask me for wedding money. When I asked her why she would do that, she said she thought it would be good for my healing journey, to help Emma, and that it might bring the family together. She actually used the phrase healing journey with a straight face. I hung up on her. Jake came home to find me having a complete breakdown on the kitchen floor. I haven't cried like that since I was 17 and found out about the affair. He held me while I sobbed and then said something that really stuck with me: your family is not your responsibility to fix. But apparently, I'd underestimated how far they were willing to take this. Tuesday morning, Emma showed up at my house. At 6 a.m. Banging on my door, crying hysterically. She said Mike threatened to leave her again if she couldn't secure funding for the wedding by Friday. She was begging me to at least meet her halfway, maybe $10,000 instead of $18,000. I told her through the door that I wasn't comfortable having this conversation and asked her to leave. She started getting louder, saying I was killing her dreams and that she never asked to be born into this mess. My neighbor Mrs. Peterson came out and asked if I needed her to call the police. Emma finally left, but not before screaming that I was, just like Mom said, bitter and selfish. Wait, what? Just like Mom said? I called my mother immediately. Apparently, there have been multiple family meetings about me. My dad, Sarah, Emma, my grandparents, and my mom have been meeting to discuss the situation. They've been strategizing about how to approach me, what pressure points to use, who I'm most likely to listen to. My own mother has been participating in family meetings designed to manipulate me into giving away my money. She tried to backtrack when I confronted her, saying they were just concerned about the family healing and wanted to make sure they approached things the right way. But when I pressed her, she admitted they discussed my weak points: my guilt about Emma being innocent in all this, my desire to be seen as a good person, my fear of being alone without family. I asked her point blank, "Do you think I should give Emma $18,000 for her wedding?" Her response: "I think you should do what's best for the family." What about what's best for me? Long pause. Sometimes we have to sacrifice for the greater good. I hung up again. This time I blocked her number. Jake found me staring at my phone in shock. When I told him about the family meetings, he said something that made it all click: they're not treating you like family. They're treating you like a bank account with feelings they need to navigate around. He's right. None of them have asked how I'm doing with all this pressure. None of them have acknowledged that being asked to fund the wedding of my dad's affair child might be emotionally complicated for me. They're just strategizing about how to extract money from me most efficiently. But here's what's really messing with my head. I keep thinking about Emma at my door this morning. She looked genuinely desperate. And I keep wondering, what if this really is my chance to be the bigger person? What if I'm being selfish? Jake keeps reminding me that my savings account isn't community property, but I can't shake the feeling that everyone I've ever loved thinks I'm a terrible person right now. Lisa is driving up this weekend. She says the whole family has lost their minds and she's worried about me. But even she asked if maybe I could help a little more, just to get them to back off. I don't know what's real anymore. Am I really being unreasonable, or has my entire family collectively decided that my boundaries don't matter? Update 3. I'm writing this from Lisa's apartment because I can't be at my house right now. This has escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. First, let me address some comments from my last update. A lot of people asked why I don't just tell Emma that Mike is obviously using her and this whole wedding is a disaster waiting to happen. I actually tried that. Big mistake. I called Emma Wednesday morning, thinking maybe I could approach this from a different angle. I gently pointed out that rushing into marriage with someone who's already cheated on her and is now threatening to leave over wedding funding might not be the best idea. She absolutely exploded. Started screaming that I was trying to sabotage her happiness, because I'm jealous and bitter. Said I was just like my mom, trying to destroy other people's relationships because mine failed. For the record, Jake and I are very happy together, but apparently facts don't matter in this family. But here's where it gets really scary. She recorded that phone call. She edited it to make it sound like I was being cruel and dismissive, then sent it to the entire family group chat that I didn't even know existed. My phone started blowing up immediately. My dad called me a heartless bitch and said I was worse than your mother ever was. My grandfather left me a voicemail saying he was ashamed to share DNA with someone so cold. But the worst was my mom. She texted me, "I raised you better than this. You're breaking my heart." The woman who used to cry herself to sleep because of what my dad did to our family is now defending him and his affair child against me. Thursday, things got exponentially worse. Emma and Sarah showed up at my workplace again. This time they brought back up my grandmother and my Aunt Carol. 4 of them in my office lobby, crying and carrying on about family and love and forgiveness. My boss, thank God, is amazing. She took one look at the situation and immediately called security. But not before my grandmother loudly announced to the entire office that I was abandoning my poor sister in her time of need. I had to leave work early because I was having a panic attack in the bathroom. Jake found me at home, hyperventilating on the couch. He was furious, angrier than I've ever seen him. That's when he told me he'd been getting calls too. Apparently, my family found Jake's work number somehow and had been calling him all week. They've been trying to get him to talk sense into me and convince me to pay for the wedding. Sarah actually told him that if he really loved me, he'd help me do the right thing by contributing his savings too. They tried to manipulate my boyfriend into funding my half-sister's wedding, using our relationship as leverage. Jake was shaking when he told me this. He said he'd never seen manipulation like this outside of documentaries about cults. Friday morning, I woke up to my car tires slashed. All 4 of them. There was no note, no evidence, but Jake's were untouched and it happened Thursday night after the office incident. I know it was them. I can't prove it, but I know. When I called Lisa crying, she immediately offered for me to come stay with her for the weekend. She lives 2 hours away and I needed space to think. Jake wanted to come with me, but I needed to process this alone. The drive to Lisa's was the first peace I'd had in weeks. No phone calls, no one banging on my door, just me and the road and finally some space to breathe. Lisa took one look at me and said I looked like I'd been through a war. We spent Friday night drinking wine and she let me vent everything. Having someone actually listen without trying to convince me to just give them the money to make it stop was like oxygen. But Saturday morning, Lisa's phone started ringing. My family had tracked me down. Sarah called Lisa and told her that I was having a mental health crisis and that they were worried about me. She said they just wanted to help me work through my trauma and that keeping me away from family was making things worse. The manipulation even extended to trying to turn my closest ally against me. Lisa shut it down immediately, but the fact that they tried. Then Emma called, sobbing, saying she was afraid I might hurt myself because I was acting so erratically. She asked Lisa to do a wellness check on me and suggested that maybe I needed professional help to deal with my family issues. They're literally trying to paint me as mentally unstable because I won't give them money. Lisa was horrified. She said she'd never seen anything like this level of coordinated manipulation. She asked me a question that's been haunting me. When did they become this? Were they always like this and you just didn't see it? I've been thinking about that all weekend. Looking back at my childhood, I remember my dad lying constantly. Little lies, big lies, lies for no reason. My mom always making excuses for him, always finding ways to rationalize his behavior. The family always rallying around whoever was causing the most drama, whoever was crying the loudest. I think they've always been like this. I just escaped before I became the target. But here's what really scares me, I almost gave in. Yesterday morning, I woke up and my first thought was, maybe I should just pay for the wedding. Even after everything they've done, even after the tire slashing and workplace harassment and attempted manipulation of my boyfriend, my first instinct was still to give them what they want to make it stop. Lisa saw me wavering and sat me down for what she called a reality check. She made me list out everything they'd done to me in the past month. When I said it all out loud, it sounded insane. Like something you'd see in a true crime documentary about financial abuse. But the worst part? I miss them. Even after all this, I miss having a family. I miss my mom, even though she's completely betrayed me. I miss the idea of Emma being my little sister, even though she's treating me like an ATM. Jake drove up Saturday night because he was worried about me. He said he'd been doing research on financial manipulation and emotional abuse. He showed me articles about family scapegoating, about how narcissistic families turn one person into the bank and then use guilt and shame to control them. It was like reading my own story written by strangers. He also told me he'd been thinking about proposing, but he's afraid to bring more stress into my life right now with all this family drama. That broke my heart in a different way, the thought that their manipulation is affecting the one healthy relationship I have. I need to make some serious decisions about how to move forward. Lisa thinks I should go completely no contact with all of them. Jake agrees. But the thought of having no family at all is terrifying. Is it really possible for an entire family to be this toxic? Or am I missing something? Because right now, it feels like I'm choosing between my sanity and being completely alone in the world. Update 4, Final. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I need to close this chapter of my life. What I've learned has changed everything. I took everyone's advice and went no contact with my entire family. Blocked numbers, social media, everything. I thought it would be the hardest thing I'd ever done, but honestly, the relief was immediate. For the first time in months, I could sleep through the night without anxiety. Jake and I had long conversations about moving forward. He was incredibly patient with me as I worked through my feelings about losing my family. But he also didn't let me romanticize what they'd done. He kept reminding me, people who love you don't terrorize you for money. But here's where this story takes a turn that I never saw coming. Lisa called me last Tuesday. She'd been doing some digging. Apparently, she'd always been suspicious about some things but never wanted to upset me. What she found out has shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. Remember how my mom suddenly became Team Emma, participating in those family meetings to strategize how to get my money? And how she'd been talking to my dad and Sarah for months. Lisa found out why. My mom has been having an affair with my dad. For 2 years. They never actually got divorced. They filed the paperwork, went through mediation, but my dad never signed the final decree. My mom knew this but never told me. They've been legally married this entire time. The financial troubles that prevented Dad from helping with Emma's wedding? Complete lie. He's been employed this whole time at a different company. The story about being fired was just to add pressure to me being their funding source. But it gets worse. So much worse. Emma isn't just my half-sister. She's my stepsister too, because my parents never actually divorced. And the wedding she wanted me to pay for? It's not happening in April like she claimed. It's not happening at all. She and Mike broke up for good 2 weeks ago. She just didn't tell anyone because she wanted to keep the money flowing. The entire wedding was fake. She was planning to take whatever money she could get and use it for other things. Lisa found all this out because she ran into Mike at a coffee shop near her work. He was with another girl, introduced her as his girlfriend of 6 months. When Lisa mentioned Emma, he said they'd broken up ages ago and that Emma had been acting crazy about some wedding that was never going to happen. The whole thing was a scam. All of it. Lisa confronted my mom with what she'd learned. My mom broke down and admitted everything. She and Dad had been meeting in secret for over a year, supposedly working on forgiveness and healing the family. She claimed they were planning to tell me eventually, but wanted to fix things with Emma first. The family meetings weren't just about getting my money. They were about testing whether I could be manipulated into accepting their reconciliation. If I'd pay for Emma's fake wedding, they figured I'd be okay with them getting back together too. When Lisa asked my mom how she could do this to me, my mom said she never stopped loving him and that I was old enough to understand that relationships are complicated. My mom chose the man who cheated on her, lied to her, and financially abused her for years. She chose him over her own daughter. Lisa told me all this as gently as she could, but there's no gentle way to learn that your entire family collaborated to financially abuse you while covering up their own lies. I felt empty. Not even angry anymore. Just empty. Jake held me while I processed it all, and then he said something that made it all click. You weren't losing your family these past few months. You were discovering that you never had one to begin with. He's right. The family I thought I was grieving never actually existed. I was mourning an illusion. But here's the thing, I'm not alone. Jake proposed to me yesterday. Not because the drama is over, but because he said he wanted to make it official that he's my family now. That we're building something real together, something based on honesty and respect instead of manipulation and lies. Lisa is planning to go low contact with the extended family too. She said watching what they did to me opened her eyes to patterns she'd been ignoring for years. We're going to be each other's family now, along with Jake. I'm also starting therapy next week. Not because there's something wrong with me, but because I want to make sure I can recognize these patterns in the future. I want to build healthy relationships and trust my instincts when people show me who they are. As for Emma, I actually feel sorry for her. She's 22 years old and already this skilled at manipulation and deception. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. She learned this from watching my parents, and now she's going to spend her life wondering why her relationships never work out, never understanding that you can't build love on a foundation of lies. My parents deserve each other. They can live in their web of deception and manipulation together. I hope they're happy, but it's not my problem anymore. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. You helped me see that choosing my own peace and sanity isn't selfish. You taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation, it's about love and respect and showing up for each other honestly. I'm going to be okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm going to be free. And to anyone reading this who sees their own family in my story, you're not crazy. Trust your instincts. You don't owe anyone access to your peace, your money, or your life just because you share DNA with them. Sometimes the family you choose is the only real family you'll ever have. And that's more than enough.